Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today, we're going to continue our conversation about the age of exploration. Now, as you remember from the day before, we're just getting into this new unit, and we're talking about how a lot of European countries are going to start exploring the world. And a lot of that is because of trade. All right, so what you see on this screen today is what you're going to create in your notebook. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you that the map is not here in order for you to copy. This is just going to be here as a reference point. What we're going to need to add to our notebook is the pro-con charts going on over here and these two questions that are going on down here. Okay, so when this whole thing is said and done, I'm not going to have given you the answers to all the pros and cons. Those are going to be your opinions. And the same thing about these questions down here, but I'm going to give you some information and I'm going to give you some evidence to help you answer all the parts. Okay, so once again, don't waste your time copying this map. This is just here as a reference point. All right, so again, we are talking about the age of exploration, and why I picked this particular map, most of you all might be able to figure out, is because of the specific year. Now, this world map is from the year 1492. And as a lot of people know, that date is significant because that is the year that Columbus first takes a voyage to what will later be considered the New World. Okay, he doesn't know it's a new world, but after a few years here, we're going to figure out that it is. So I use this 1492 map to kind of give you a visual of what they thought the world looked like at that time. Now, again, I'm going to go ahead and say this, that even in the time of Columbus, many people, most people, especially educated people, did not think that the world was flat. They knew that the world was round by that point, and they had globes to prove it. However, this is what they thought the world looked like. They thought that Europe was here, Africa, although it's a little misshapen from how we know it, was down here, and Asia was really misshapen. I mean, this looks kind of just like India, and then there's this kind of leg here, but all of Russia is not really figured out. All of China is not figured out. Obviously, we're missing the Pacific Ocean, but this is just generally what the world to them looked like in 1492. Okay. Now, what Columbus is going to do is he's going to leave from Portugal, Spain area right around here. And what he thinks he's going to do is he's going to travel westward and he's going to come around the back side. Imagine this world is round, and he thinks that he can get to Asia, any part of Asia, by coming around the back side here. Okay. What he doesn't know is that he travels westward and he's going to land in an area that is all new to the people of Europe at that time. Okay, so that's why it's significant. Now, like we talked about the other day, if you guys remember, you had your arrows and you had your letters like C and I and B and A and all those things going on in the middle here. Just kind of keep those in mind right now. And I'm going to bring you over to this pro and con chart. Okay, so let's imagine we're a couple years down the road from the 1490s. We're in the early 1500s. Okay, and now, even though we know that there is a new world over there, there is some form of new land that's yet to be discovered completely, we have to make a decision because we still have to trade. We still have to get goods. So, what we're going to do is we're going to try to make a choice. We're going to try to make the choice between continuing to go to Asia, which I'll explain here in a second, and exploring the new world. So let's imagine that we're living any of these countries in Europe. And remember, they've been getting their goods from this area, who's getting them from this area, right? There was kind of that chain of trade going along the middle here. So you have two choices. Are you going to continue to get your goods all the way from Asia along this path, which I did tell you all in some cases was starting to get broken up in certain parts because there might have been wars or there might have been different arguments along the way where the trade paths were getting kind of chopped up. So are we going to continue to go to Asia to get our goods, or are we going to kind of explore what's going on in the new world? So we're going to make the decision of, well, should we just kind of follow Columbus's path and go over westward and look for things in this new world? Okay, so here's what I want you all to do with this pro-con list. First of all, in your notebook, you actually have to copy this in some way, shape, or form. Doesn't have to be green and red, or if you want to use a green pen or a red pen for the pros and cons, that's fine. But as long as you kind of copy the chart so far, that's good at this point. Okay, now what you need to do is using just kind of your obvious kind of own opinion and in your own thoughts, you want to come up with a couple of pros and a couple of cons and a couple of pros and a couple of cons for both sides of this chart. So how can we look at this thing and how can we come up with pros and cons? Well, think about living during that time period, okay? And you've always been getting your goods from Asia by this route. And I want you to come up with a few pros that would go towards doing the same thing you've always done. So imagine you're going to continue buying your goods via the same route, and I want you to come up with a couple of good reasons for that. Like, well, I'm going to keep getting my goods from this area because such and such. Okay? Now think about it. I've already mentioned a couple, but now in this con side, you're going to weigh out the negatives of continuing to go to Asia. So now in this box right here, you're going to think, well, I might not want to continue to Asia anymore. I might not want to continue to get my goods from this route because this and this. Okay, so think of a couple of things. Now I know this map is not giving you a lot of detail in order to answer the pros and cons, but you all can really think about stuff we talked about on the previous slide and just things using your common sense. All right. So now exploring the new world. Columbus doesn't even know that he's discovered a new world. In fact, he thought he was in China or he thought he was in India. He thought he had just gone all the way around and come back to this other side, and he had just discovered some odd new place that nobody had been to way over here on this side of the map. But as we know, he really discovered what is now around the Bahamas, Cuba, the Caribbean Sea, places like that. Okay, but anyway, we're jumping forward a few years where people know that Columbus did discover something new, something different, and now we're going to look at these choices again. So now I'm still living in Europe, but am I going to start getting my goods from the new world? And that's where these pros and cons start to kick in. Okay, list me a few pros that you think would come from exploring the new world. So once we know that there's some new area over there to the west, what are some pro ideas that you all can come up with that would be related to trade and related to goods? Okay, so I think I would explore the new world because what and what. Okay, and the same deal with the cons. Think about it. Why would you have a little bit of apprehension? Why would you be a bit nervous about heading westward and getting new goods from this totally different land? Okay, so that's what this cons box down here is kind of asking you to do. So, like, no, I really wouldn't want to try to get my goods from the new world because of this and this reason. Okay, so that's this whole chart in a nutshell. You definitely need more than one answer for each box. Okay, two would be sufficient, but I'm talking two pro, two con, two pro over here, two con over here. So you just got to think outside the box a little bit. All right, down here on these two questions. First of all, this one says opinion, but it's your opinion based off of things that you're going to figure out here. It says, in your opinion, what was the better option and why? Okay, so if you take this whole pro con chart into consideration, think of you living back then and weigh the option and just think, all right, I really would want to go to the new world because of all these reasons. Or, you know what? No, I would probably stay put and I would continue buying my goods the old way because why? So this question right here is you basically making a choice. Okay, so after having done all this pro con business, you want to come down here and give me your final option. All right. Overall, why do you think Europeans eventually chose to travel to the New World? Because to be honest, that was their choice. Because after a long time, they all decided, you know what, we are going to go to the New World, start looking for new land, start looking for new goods, and things like that. Okay. So the first question here is basically, in your opinion, what would you have done and why? The second question is, why do you think Europeans eventually chose to travel to the New World? Because obviously they did. Okay. So, once again, like we've done before, I want you all to make sure that you complete all the things that we've discussed in the notebook, and I have to have evidence that you completed it with all the parts that we've discussed. Okay? So, once again, send me some form of a shared document, or most likely, a lot of you all have been taking pictures of your notebook page and just send it to me that way. That's perfectly all right. Okay? As always, I hope you all are staying busy, staying not bored, staying healthy, and things like that. Okay. And as always, I'll hopefully talk to you all soon and have a good day. Bye bye.